Good morning. That's the webinar about project management this time. And we will try to cover the subject, which is quite popular in our team, and at the same time causes many troubles and many misconceptions, misunderstandings for people who join our teams and they don't know how to resolve that. I'm talking about situations when you join the project or you work with something in your project, and then you see and understand that you get a task which you don't know how to resolve, or you have some problems resolving that for many different reasons. For example, you don't know what to do, you don't know the technologies, you don't understand the code which you're supposed to work with, you don't understand the purpose of this code, or maybe you're just not professional enough to work with that technology. So the question is what you do, because in our projects we think this is the right way to manage programmers in general. We put the full responsibility on the shoulders of the programmer. So we think that this is the right way to go in any projects, is to if the task is assigned to somebody, if somebody is responsible for that task, then that person is fully responsible for all the problems and all the difficulties and all the unknowns of that task. So the question is, what do I do if the management gives me the task and I'm supposed to be responsible for everything, but at the same time I can't solve it, I just don't know, or the task is not clear enough, or something is just not so obvious, so I just can't resolve the problem. So what do I do if the responsibility is still on my shoulders? Because that's exactly how we manage all our projects. We don't allow people to walk away from that responsibility and to ask for any help. We basically tell all programmers, inform them upfront that when the task is yours, you're supposed to solve it from the start till the end, and there's nobody going to help you anyhow. And this is how I think responsibility should work in general. It has to be assigned to one person always. So the question is, what do I do if I don't know what to do? And I think that this question actually comes, and the solution, because many people just that's what I see in our projects. They just start working and then they come back and say, I need help, just give me some information. It all comes from the lack of discipline, I think, and not the discipline of programmers, but the discipline of managers. So this situation happens when managers cannot properly organize the flow of information, and cannot properly organize the flow of knowledge, actually, not just information, the flow of knowledge. So in a properly organized project like we are trying to do, all the questions and all the unknowns, which are actually requests for extra knowledge, have to be resolved through a predefined process, or the predefined set of steps which needs to be done. So let's say I have a task and I'm working on some Java class which I've never seen before. So my first question is what this class is doing. My second question is who was working with that class before and why that class was created in the first place. Maybe my third question is who are the dependencies for this class? So what this class is connected to, and who is what this class is who are the dependencies, who are the connections, which classes this class is coupled with. So I don't want to break anything, or I want to understand what the connections are. And maybe my next question is going to be, where are the unit tests or the integration tests, and how can I run them? So all these questions, they need to be answered through a process defined in the project, not through asking somebody sitting next to me in the next desk, or asking somebody in the Skype chat, or sending an email to somebody asking who knows about that, who can give me the hand and help me resolve that and help me become more knowledgeable in this project. But instead, I need to have the venue, I need to have the place where I can post my question and get a formal answer in a disciplined way. Unfortunately, in most projects, it doesn't happen that way, because managers are too lazy or too incompetent to configure it that way. And because of that, people need to talk to each other in order to resolve that question. Because there is no document flow, there is no formal structure of how knowledge is supposed to be transferred from one programmer to another programmer. So we don't do that. Instead we say that we know how the information should flow. We're using ticketing system, and I would recommend you to do the same. So for every time you want to resolve, you want to ask a question or you want to answer the question, you have to submit a ticket somewhere. So you have to have the ticketing system where people submit their questions and where people can find the questions previously submitted. So that's, I think, is not the perfect source of knowledge, because the perfect source of knowledge is the source code. That has to be the ideal knowledge base. So everything has to be clear from the source code. I have to, in ideal situation, I have to be able to check out the whole repository, look at the source code, and get the entire information I need. So I'm not supposed to go anywhere else. That's the ideal project is designed that way. But the second step, if I need to go somewhere, there has to be tickets where I, as a developer, can search for information. I can post my questions, and then somebody will answer that information for me, like it's done in open source projects. Well, in open source projects, they also have some newsletters or some let's say, mailing lists or forums, or maybe you have Stack Overflow where you can ask a question. And all of that, I think, all of that mechanisms should go after tickets. So the first level is source code. The second level is tickets. The third level is probably, I would say, Stack Overflow or something like that. And then the level number 4 should be like mailing lists or emails, which are not the perfect way to communicate knowledge. And then the level number 5, which you shouldn't go anywhere. You should not go there anyhow, nowhere, no when, just never. It's the level where you actually ask somebody and then call a meeting, and then you sit in the same room or in the same chat room, and then you talk and discuss. That should be your last resort. That's really unprofessional. So, okay, let's back to the main question. So what do you do when the task is in your hand and you want to complete it, but you can't? We call it cut corners. So that's the main message. So you need to, as a programmer, you need to think in a way that you shouldn't blame yourself for the problems you have with the product. Core idea, which you should have in mind. So when you get the task, when you get the piece of code, when you get some problem, some bug, whatever, some new feature, and you start working with that, if something is not clear or something cannot be resolved or whatever, you shouldn't blame yourself for that, and you should not become a hero who is supposed to fix everything. Behavior of programmers or any engineers or any team members where people are really motivated to be a hero, to be the good guy, and to help everybody because I'm looking at the problem and I don't know what to do now, but I'm going to dig deeper. I'm going to try to solve that problem. I'm going to spend some extra time, walk an extra mile, and then I'm going to solve it. That's the behavior that promotes yourself in the eyes of a bad managers, and at the same time it kills the project. So the more you're trying to be a good guy in the project, the more you're trying to help the project, the bigger the problem is, the bigger the trouble you're creating for your project. And if your project manager is good, then that project manager will try to stop that behavior and will try to prevent you from doing that. So that will not happen. So the project manager, if the project manager is good, then he or she is not going to appreciate that behavior. So the project manager will always ask you not to be a hero and not to be a good guy, not to try to solve all the problems you can solve, but instead if I'm a project manager, inform me about these problems and let me decide what needs to be done next. Because every time I can explain why. Let me put myself into the position of a project manager. Let's say I'm a project manager and you are a programmer, and I'm giving you the task, and I don't know, I'm a project manager, I don't know what this Java is, let's say. I'm not really technical. So all I know is that there are a number of some pieces of work in this project, and they are called by the names of some classes. I have no idea what these classes are, but I know that I have 3 people and I gave them 3 pieces of work. So now they're supposed to work on that stuff and come back to me when the problem is solved. And let's say 2 of them come back to me and say, hey, in order for me to solve the problem A, I need something else. I need, for example, I need some extra class to be created, which is going to be task number 4. And then another guy comes back to me and say, I cannot solve that because the documentation, because it's not clear how this piece of functionality has to be created. We need more documentation. So somebody has to go to the client, for example, and ask the client what exactly needs to be done, because the current documentation is not clear. I'm not going to go, this guy will tell me, I'm not going to go to that customer because it's not my job. Just help me. Give it to me. I can't continue my task number 2 because I don't have enough information. So from 2 people, I have the feedback immediately. I know that I have task number 4 and I have task number 5. So now I can manage something. Now I can see, okay, I need more resources, or I need more time, or I need to inform somebody behind my back, somebody staying and looking at my job, that we have not 3 tasks now, but we have 5 tasks. So that information will help me to understand what's going to happen with the project in the next, how soon we will finish this project. What's going to be the timeline? Because something really changed, because I expected these 3 people to complete their work in, say, 1 day each. So I was expecting them to come back to me tomorrow with results and everything will be done and the project is finished. But it's not going to happen. I know this in the morning because these 2 people already informed me that there's going to be 2 more tasks. So now I have the information for the management. I know how to manage my project. I know that there is extra work in the scope. And now I need more time. Now I need more money. Now I have more risks. So I can go back to the people who are waiting for me to finish my stuff tomorrow and tell them that, look, we have a problem. We have to do the timeline is changed. I'm telling you right now that tomorrow morning it's not going to be ready. And let's see that the guy number 3, who's working on the task number 3, and he's a hero. He knows that he can help me. He's trying to be a good guy, because these 2 people are definitely bad guys. So they didn't try to help me. They just came back and say, hey, this is your problem. You gave me something which I can't work with. So do something about it. They may look like bad guys, but in reality, they did me a good job because they gave me information back. They gave me the valuable feedback, which now I can use. Now I control the project still with them because they helped me to manage it. They helped me to control it. And the guy number 3 is not doing that. He's just playing a good guy. He's just looking at the code. He doesn't understand what to do, but he's going to go deeper and dig deeper and probably go to the customer by himself and try to solve it. We know that he's not going to finish it by tomorrow. He's not going to finish because he obviously needs more time, like these guys as well. But instead of returning it back to me and letting me decide what to do, he's hiding that information from me. And he's taking responsibility for the management decisions. So now he becomes the manager. He makes the decision which I'm supposed to make. So he decides, okay, I don't have information. Maybe I need some extra documentation. How about I go to the customer and ask for extra feedback? Or maybe I go to some other programmers and ask them to help me to understand how this module works. So he's making management decisions which he's not supposed to make. He's taking control of the project out of my hands. Because now I don't have control. I don't know what's going on. I will probably need to come back to him in the end of the day and say, hey, Jeffrey, what's going on? I gave you the task in the morning and there is no feedback from you, so probably you're working on something, but what exactly is there, and do you have any problems? And the answer most probably will be like, yes, I have problems. I had them, but I'm solving them and I'm going to solve them. I'm going to continue solving them. And my next question will be, who told you to solve them? How do you know that we need to get more information from the customer, for example? How do you know that we allowed to spend more money for that, more time and more money? How do you know? How did you make that management decisions? So the person who is taking responsibility, who is making these decisions by themselves, these people are actually making only a trouble for the good project manager. If the project manager is bad, the project manager is just lazy and not doing anything, just sitting in the office and checking that everybody comes in time and leaves the office in time, then yes, this guy number 3 is way better than these previous 2 guys. Because in this case, he just continues to work. He doesn't bother me with this feedback. He doesn't tell me what the problems are. He just continues to work on something, and I don't need to do anything. I'll just sitting there and waiting. Because in the previous two people, they basically put a lot of work on my shoulders, because I give them something, they give something back, always. Every time I give them something, they're trying to push it back. They're trying to tell me that this piece of information is not there, and this module is not perfect, we need refactoring before I can continue. And they're saying this documentation is not provided from the client, and it's not good enough for me, so I can't continue. So they're always trying to push back their tasks to me, and they're making my work more difficult. But for a good project manager, it's not difficult. It becomes easier. I mean, this flow of information, this flow of extra information makes my life as a good project manager way easier, because they help me. That's what I didn't say before. They help me to break down the big complex task into smaller pieces. Because every time I give them one task, they come back with 2 or 3. So I give them one and say, fix this bug, and they come back and say, hey, there's problem over there, there's problem over here, I don't have this dependency, I don't understand this documentation. So I give them one task, and they push me back 4 tasks. And these tasks is the super valuable source of information for me, because I know how to continue to manage my project. They help me to understand my scope better. Because when I start the project, I have quite vague and not really specific understanding of the scope. So I don't know exactly what's there. I don't know how many tasks are there, how many problems are there, how good is documentation. I'm not a developer. I'm expecting that feedback from my programmers in order to help me to make the decisions of what needs to be done next. And these good people, I mean, the professional programmers, they're always trying to give this information. They don't play heroes. They're not trying to be good, because by trying to be good, they're only doing a bad favor for me and for the project. Because they're hiding the information from me. They're not helping me to manage that. They're taking 2 big pieces of work. I gave them 1 day, they take 3 days, 4 days, working on something which I don't know about. I, as a project manager, need to know about all the details which are happening in the project. I need to know all the small tasks which are happening, because this increases my manageability. The smaller the tasks are, the more manageable the scope is for me. The higher is the granularity of my tasks. The smaller are the tasks, the easier for me as the project manager to manage them. If I have 2 big tasks in the project, let's say I have one task, develop the entire software, the second task is deploy the entire software. How can I manage that? I have one big task which I give to somebody, and then I have another big task which I give to somebody else, and that's it. I can't control what's going on. All I can do is just sit and wait. I'm gonna sit and wait until these 2 groups of people or 2 people finish their work, and then maybe if they finish in time, then maybe the entire project will be completed. But in most cases, they will not finish in time. And then if they don't finish in time, I won't have anything to say to my management, to my managers, to the people who basically pay for the project, because I don't have the details. I don't know what's going on. That's why for a good manager and a proper project management, we need smaller tasks. We need tasks to be really high granularity so that I can manage them. If I can put 100 tasks on the Gantt chart, if I put 100 small pieces and then connect them one to another and know the dependencies between them, then this chart becomes really manageable and really too easy to understand. I can manage it. I can move a few tasks left and right, and I can rotate people. I can see who's working on what. I can change resources. I can stop here and put more resources there. So I can manage. The task, the scope, becomes way more manageable for me than it was before, when I was working with just 2 big pieces of work. So, and again, getting back to cutting corners, is that when I give a task to the programmer who is not going to cut corners and return back the task to me saying that it's not ready, then that person is making my life way more difficult. So now the question is how exactly we can cut corners. So cut corners means that why I call it cutting corners is that when the task comes to you and you want to complete it but you can't, then basically you need to, that's my philosophy, is that you as a programmer need to move a little bit further. That's the main thing. So you need to move a little bit further as much as you can, and then create dependencies, create some tasks or bugs or some requests or your demands for something, and then stop and let your manager decide what to do. And that dependencies, they could be, like I said, they could be different. So that's what I call cut corners. So you go straight, and then you're supposed to go straight and turn left, but you can't do it perfectly, ideally. So you have some dependencies, but you do it as good as you can, and the rest of the task which you can complete, you leave these questions asked. So let's say there's a task, and I give you the task. You're the programmer, I'm a manager. I give you the task which says that you need to implement the feature in the web app where the user clicks the button and the PDF report gets downloaded. It sounds like quite simple, right? But it may be quite difficult because it depends on the data you're gonna get somewhere and how complex is the report. So let's say you're a programmer, you start working on that, but you're saying, for example, you never worked with the PDF reports. I mean, you don't know how to build a PDF file at all. You know how to get the data from the database, but you have no experience of building PDF documents. And you don't want to, and you understand that that's quite complex task. You understand that to make that decision and find the library for that and implement that and put this library in the application, it's quite a difficult job, which is probably you will need some help from the architect, from somebody who will help you to make that decision. It's quite an important decision. But the manager expects you to do something. The manager, again, like I said before, the manager doesn't want you to go to the architect and find that information and resolve it by itself and spend who knows how much time to solving that problem and finding the right solution. Because maybe the architect will say, you know what, I have no time right now and we need to think about it properly. We need somebody else to help us. We have another guy in our team who's going to go back to the office, who's going to come back to the office on Friday, because now he's on some vacation, so he's going to be back on Friday, and we need to talk to him because he worked with PDF before. So now how about you check some other libraries or do something else? So that's kind of an answer which may come from the architect. If you go to the architect as a programmer and start talking to the architect without informing me, and then that may take some time until Friday, and then on Friday this guy shows up, and then you discuss this PDF library, and maybe you will try something. Maybe it's not going to work. So it's going to be something which will take time, and all the information you're going to give me back while it's still happening is like, we are working on that. I'm working on this PDF report. I'm thinking. I'm still discussing. I'm still waiting for somebody. That's not the way I want you to manage this task. I want you to cut corners. I want you to say, hey, you need me to implement the PDF report. Okay, what this task is actually, how it's going to happen. First of all, I need to investigate and find a good library which is going to generate the PDF file. The step number one. The step number two, I'm going to hook this library in, and I'm going to call that library when I have the data from the database. Step number three, I need to get the data from a database. And then I need to deliver this PDF report and show it on the screen. Probably that's not so difficult. So there are 4 steps which I can do myself, except step number 2. So I cannot generate PDF report properly because that will take some time. Okay, I'm going to cut this corner. So I'm not going to do it right. I'm not going to do it properly. I'm not going to do it through the architect and the proper decision and everything. I'm going to implement step number 1, 2, 3, and then I will implement number 2 with some primitive PDF generating, which I will get some. I'm going to copy paste it from Stack Overflow. I'm going to just implement it the way I can in just half an hour or maybe 5 minutes. And then I call this task as a completed task, but I will say that there is a dependency for me. So this task is not perfectly completed, it's not perfectly correct, because there is a dependency. And you will come back to me as a manager and say that the task is done. We can show it. I mean, I can demonstrate it. It works. But there is a dependency. I already created another ticket which says, hey guys, we need to investigate how to do the PDF reporting right. And as soon as we investigate and do it right, then we need to go back to our software and then change that piece of code and implement it the right way. So in this case, you put and then you return back the task to me and say, hey, I'm done, I'm finished, but there's nothing, it's not perfect. The result is not perfect in all senses. I mean, in all places. One place is not perfect at all because it's just a copy paste from somewhere. I just found it on the internet how to generate a simple PDF file. So it generates something, but if you want to continue, if you want to do it right, then there is another task for you, another ticket for me as a project manager, and you can implement it right. So in this case, you've done your job as fast as you could, and then you return it back to me. Now it's my decision as a project manager. Maybe I'm going to think about what actually happened. Maybe you didn't have the skills to do that. Like, you're supposed to know how to implement PDF reporting. I don't know. You promised us that you know that, but you don't know. Maybe the software is not ready for, I don't know. So it's going to be, my point is that it's going to be my management decision about what to do, including maybe placing you into another team because you don't know how PDF reports work. So it may sound scary for your job security because you're exposing yourself, you're exposing your flaws and your problems, your lack of skills sometimes. You expose all that to your manager. So you're saying that I don't know how to do the PDF reporting, even though I wrote about that in my resume and you hired me as a super specialist in PDF reporting, or I don't know, something like that. And now you're coming back to your manager and exposing your internal, your imperfection, that you're not so perfect. But it may sound scary, and again, the good programmer, the good developer, the good engineer, the professional one will not be afraid of that. Because if we are working with a good project manager, because good project manager will always try to make decisions based on objective facts, not on personalities. So if you do lack the skills, if you really don't know how to implement this PDF, and you're supposed to know that, then yes, the project manager will make a decision to fire you. But it's going to be the right decision for the manager and for you and for the project. By hiding that information and trying to solve this PDF problem and going around the office and Googling on the internet and trying to find that information, you're hiding the reality from your project manager. And you're doing a bad favor to him and to her. And eventually the project manager will find out what's going to happen. And if this is a good project manager, you will have bigger problem comparing to the one you could have if you would disclose that problems first. I mean, upfront. So in our teams, we have that situations quite often. We even encourage people to sometimes not just implement something, like in this example, implement something and then leave some dependencies unimplemented, cut some corners. But we tell them that if you need to cut many corners, just cut them all and say that I don't know how to implement that task at all. Just take it away from me. So we make a task, assign it to somebody, to some programmer, and then we tell that programmer that if you don't like that task, you can just reject it and then say, I don't know how to work with that, or just don't say anything. And it's going to be our problem of our manager what to do with that task and how to assign it to somebody else. But by letting us know that you cannot do that, you inform us what is the better way to manage you and what tasks we're going to give you instead of the ones we gave you before. So that's what I wanted to say. I'm finishing. So that's my point. So always try to be honest with your manager and tell your manager all the problems, all the troubles you have, and don't try to solve them by yourself. Because the more you're trying to solve, the more you close the door. You put the wall between you and the manager. You're hiding the information. You're making the work of a manager really more complex, comparing to the situation where you would disclose everything. But again, all I'm saying here will probably work with a good project manager. So if you have, incompetent and lazy manager on top of you, then probably you shouldn't do it like that, because these guys, they do appreciate these heroes and these superstars, and appreciate these hackers who can solve everything, no matter how complex is the task. You just give it the task to somebody, and this somebody will fix everything. So some managers, not some, but most managers, they do value that. They will appreciate that. They will think that you're a superstar, you're a superhero. You're gonna fix anything. You're gonna solve everything. But these managers are just bad managers. So if you're dealing with the manager who really expect you to be that kind of guy, I would suggest you change the team. So I would recommend to work with managers who appreciate honesty and appreciate you being always ready to push the task back. The task comes to you, you're always trying to push it back and say, I don't know this, I don't know that, I need help here, I need help there. Create this stuff, and then I will be able to continue. In that case, you help your manager. So that's probably it. That was my point. And there is a blog article which gives a little bit more information on this subject. I just wanted to say it in words. And we have one question in the chat, and the question is, how about knowledge transfer among the team? So the question is, how do we transfer knowledge? Probably among the team means from the developer to the developer. So like I'm saying, that the right way to transfer knowledge is through the source code. Source code has to be the main knowledge base, which contains all the knowledge about the entire project and about the entire code. Maybe sometimes you can add some wiki pages or some just text documents or text pages, but I would suggest to put them into repository as well, so that I'm, as a developer, I check out the repository and I see everything there. I see all the code, all the text files, everything. So nothing should stay aside from your code base. Nothing should stay in this Google Docs, Google spreadsheets, whatever, in the emails or anything else. You should think of yourself, of your team, and all the people around, in the team, as a temporary resource attached to the source code. So the source code is the king. All of you, all of us, people around this source code, we are replaceable. So we are just resources who are attached to the product. So the source code is the king. Source code is the king, and people around the code are just replaceable resources. That's how you should think about yourself and your colleagues and your people who work with you. So they are all replaceable. We can lose them sometimes. We will lose them sometimes. It's inevitable. They're not going to stay together with this code forever. They will go to different companies. They will work somebody else. And this is perfect. This is how it should be. We are not married to this code. We are not the code we develop. The code we develop is the code we develop. And we are as we are. So we shouldn't attach it to each other. So you should not be the person who knows something which is not inside the source code. You should transfer that knowledge to the source code. And every time you check out the code and you don't see some knowledge in there, you complain about it and say, hey, the source code probably doesn't contain some information which is in the head of some of these experts or these guys sitting next to me or in the same office. So how about you take it out of their heads and ask them to put this information into the source code? I'm not going to call them. I'm not going to talk to them. I'm not going to be on the meeting with them. I don't want that as a programmer. All I want is these guys to put this information back to take it from their heads and put this information into the source code. That's what I want from them. And you always should try to ask, not try, but ask your project manager to do that for you. And say, I need that. I don't want to I don't want to get this knowledge transfer from person to person. I need to open the book, and the book says everything. That's what the real knowledge transfer is about. Knowledge transfer is not from person to person, but from person to the source code or to documentation. So every time you want to transfer knowledge, it means that you're taking information from Jeffrey and put it into file a.java. That's what knowledge transfer is. If you transfer from person to person, it's waste of time, it's waste of money, it's waste of everything, because these two people, they are replaceable. They will walk away with their knowledge eventually. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, not next month, but next year. And then what? All the money we spent on the training them and putting this information in their heads is wasted. So that's how it should be. And every time, and coming from that, and every time you don't see that, you don't see that knowledge being transferred from Jeffrey to the source code, it's a problem. So complain about that problem and ask your project manager to organize that transfer, that knowledge transfer, in the right way. Not call everybody in the meeting room, but organize the document flow, information flow, so that the knowledge stays with the source code. So that's probably what I wanted to say. And we don't have any more questions. So I would recommend you to take a look at the blog article about that. And I had a few presentations about that on a few conferences recently. One of them is called Blame the Project. I would recommend that to take a look. It was in Netherlands about a month ago. And another presentation was, it was called a few presentations about meetings. They also close to that subject. They explain how meetings are actually doing the bad favor to our projects and how they should be avoided, because they promote this knowledge transfer in the wrong way. So that's it. Thank you very much. Come back next month, the first Wednesday of each month, 11 in the morning Pacific time. Thank you. Goodbye.